Welcome again students to your biology class. Now that we have learned the definitions of many terms, we know what is a disease, what is meant by being healthy, we saw what are the factors responsible for diseases, we saw the causes of diseases, and we also learned about infectious agents which are responsible for diseases. So today we will learn the difference between two terms, symptoms and signs. We have been using these terms in this chapter, so we will see the difference between these two terms. If you see here, symptoms, they are nothing but indication of the presence of a disease, whereas signs, they provide accurate information about the presence of a disease. If you see symptoms, they are forms of structural and functional changes in the body or body parts. So symptoms can be anything like a wound with pus, it can be any pain in the stomach, it can be a headache, it can be fever, it can be loose motions, etc. Signs based on the type of symptom. Certain tests are conducted, and why these tests are conducted? To find out the particular or a definite kind of disease. So only based on the type of symptoms we can conduct tests and find the actual disease. Again, symptoms, if you see, they are collective manifestation for a number of diseases, whereas signs are distinct for different diseases, which means that in case a person is suffering from a headache, okay, so headache is an example of a symptom. So headache can be due to some problem with the eyesight. It can also be due to meningitis. It can also be due to sunstroke, heat stroke. So there might be various reasons for headache. Okay. So if a person gets headache, which is a symptom, then he has to go, and then after performing different types of tests, the accurate disease can be found out, whether it is actually a problem with the eyesight for that person or it is any other disease. Same way, if a person is suffering from fever, he has been coughing continuously. It can be because of many diseases. It can be because of malaria, it can be because of influenza, it can be because of tuberculosis. So coughing and fever, they are only symptoms. So with these symptoms, when a person goes for further tests, diagnostic tests, then the actual disease can be found out. So I hope the difference between symptoms and signs are clear. So symptoms can be a manifestation for various diseases, but if you see sign, it is only for a definite or a particular kind of disease. But signs, if you see, only based on symptoms we can actually find out the particular type of a disease. Now that we know the different causes and factors causing diseases, we will come to the principles of treatment of diseases. If you see the principles of treatment, they are of two types. The first one is to reduce the effect of disease. How it can be reduced? By two ways again. One is symptomatic treatment and the other one is bed rest. Okay. So what is symptomatic treatment? As I told you, in case you get certain symptoms, like if you have fever or if you have cough, then at the initial stage itself you start taking antibiotics for them. In case if it is fever, then you start taking particular antibiotics for that. Then in case you have any pain, then you take antibiotics like analgesic medicines. And then again, if you have any allergies, you take some anti-allergic medicines for that. So before it could be elaborated, it could move further, you start taking medicines at the beginning stage, at the initial stage itself, to reduce the effect of the disease. And the second option is to take bed rest. You have seen that at many homes, that as soon as you have fever or cough, then your parents or your grandparents will say, don't go to school, don't go to play, take some rest. And then they ask you to sit at a particular place, take some rest for a couple of days, and gradually you will see that the symptoms have reduced or they have completely disappeared. The next step is by killing the microorganisms of the infectious agents. Now that the person is already affected by a particular type of disease. So what is the next step is to kill that agent. So as I had mentioned in the previous sessions that each and every microorganism, they will follow a particular kind of biochemical pathway. So after infecting a host, they also follow it. They follow a different type of biochemical pathway. So in case of bacteria, they have a cell wall. So there are certain antibiotics which can be taken to prevent the formation of cell wall by the bacteria. Again, there are different types of antibiotics and medicines which can prevent the formation of ribosomes by bacteria, and few other types of antibiotics which can inhibit the replication of DNA of the organism. So these types of antibiotics can be taken so that the spread of the organisms as well as to reduce the effect of the organisms can be taken care of. But in case of virus, as I told you, they do not have any specific medicines. It is only when a virus enters the body, it replicates, it uses the DNA of the host organism itself, replicates, and after a certain period of time it goes away. So in case of virus infections, the best thing to do is take sufficient rest, and to increase the immunity, you can to prevent the infection of other diseases through bacteria or protozoa, we can take antibiotics. So two ways of treatment. First one is to reduce the effect of the disease, and the second one is to kill the microorganisms of the infectious agents by taking drugs. Drugs are nothing but prescribed medicines and antibiotics. I hope this is clear for you. So now let's see what are the principles of prevention. Now once a person is affected with disease, we know that he loses his stamina, most of the time he feels tired, number of working days is lost, whether he is a student or he works somewhere, and then of course lot of expenditure too. So before that itself, we know that prevention is always better than cure. So how to prevent occurrence of diseases? Very simple measures if we follow it properly. Public health measures, as we have learnt in the earlier sessions, this will include proper drainage, proper disposal of waste, then providing proper medical facilities, vaccination, control of pests and insects. All this, if it is taken care in a community, it will go a long way to take care of everyone's health. Personal health measures. So personal health measures, it includes good habits, clean habits, which means that the person should not be addicted to any kind of drug, narcotic drugs or alcohol or smoking. He should have proper clean habits. He should consume good, unadulterated, uncontaminated, nutritious food and a balanced diet. So as I told you, food and nutrition both should be proper. The person, we all should follow proper exercise routine every day. So simple exercises, but it will rejuvenate our body, it will keep all the muscles active. Again, along with all these, personal hygiene, clean habits like brushing your teeth, taking bath every day, combing your hair, washing the hands, all these small things, along with domestic hygiene. Domestic hygiene includes cleaning your room, cleaning your house, keeping the toilets and bathroom clean, keeping the sinks clean, keeping utensils clean, everything. So personal as well as domestic hygiene. Relaxation. So after a rigorous day of work and exercise, some amount has to be given for your body to rest and relax, and then proper amount of sleep. So you should have around 6 to 8 hours of good sleep. Okay, so during examination time you should at least sleep for around 6 to 7 hours, and during other time you have to sleep for around 8 hours, and that too at proper timings. So all these put together, your personal hygiene, personal health measures and public health measures will help us to. So the next measure of prevention is to follow certain specific ways of immunization. So immunization includes vaccination. You remember what are vaccines? Vaccines are nothing but weakened microbes which are injected inside a person's body. So when they are injected inside the body, they themselves do not cause any harm, but they help in prevention of any further, in case of any further exposure to that particular type of microorganism or infectious agents, they help in preventing any kind of infection by that particular organism. So if you see some examples of vaccines, as I told you right now, anytime vaccines for COVID-19 will also be available in our country. So other than that, the common type of vaccines which are given to infants and other children are DPT. DPT vaccines, its DPT stands for diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. So vaccination is available for this DPT. And then BCG vaccine. BCG vaccine is for prevention of tuberculosis. So BCG stands for Bacillus calmette-guerin. Okay, so tuberculosis is caused by a bacteria called as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So to prevent the attack of that bacteria, BCG vaccine is given. And diphtheria is caused by a bacterium again. It is called as Corynebacterium. So these vaccines are given for preventing the attack of those organisms. Then polio. Polio or poliomyelitis, it is caused by a virus, polio virus, and for this oral polio drops are given from time to time till the age of 5. So if you see this, if you have just check with your parents, you will have a card, vaccination card, so which is given for every child. So if you see the number of vaccines and the number of doses of polio which you have taken, you can get an idea about the different types of vaccines available. So I hope all these topics are clear to you. So we have come to the end of this chapter. So in the next class I will give you some examples of different types of diseases. We will see few diseases caused by different types of infectious agents and their symptoms and also their treatment. So keep learning, keep go through the contents, and until we meet in the next session, goodbye children.